Welcome to Reddit Echoes, where real-life stories are told with raw emotion and unfiltered truth. Today I'm sharing a story that will make anyone who has ever trusted in a relationship stop and rethink everything. Imagine this: you're in what seems like a solid relationship. You love, you trust, and you truly believe that if anything ever goes wrong, that person will stay by your side. But then when real danger strikes, they run. No turning back, no helping hand, no final word. This isn't just a story about a robbery. It's the moment a young woman realized her true worth after being abandoned by the one she loved at the scariest moment of her life. This isn't just a betrayal. It's a rude awakening, a transformation, a painful truth peeled back to reveal what love sometimes really looks like, and what it definitely should not. If you've ever thought you truly knew your partner, this story might make you look again. Story 1. My mom wants to get pregnant at 60, and she wants me to donate my eggs to her. I never thought I'd share this story, because every time I mention even a tiny piece of it, people react in one of two extreme ways. They either burst out laughing like I've just pitched a trashy soap opera plot, or they go dead silent like their brain is trying to process something that is just so incredibly wrong. I'm 30 years old, a regular woman with a job, a life, and the belief that my family was pretty normal. That is until my 60-year-old mother sat me down one day and said, "Sweetheart, I want you to donate your eggs to me. I want to have a baby with my new husband." Yes, not to save someone's life, not because of illness, not to help an infertile couple desperate for a child. My mother wanted my eggs, so she could have a baby who would biologically be mine, but legally be my sibling. Part 1. I'm just asking, that's all, I swear to you. At first I thought this was one of those loyalty tests. Like, if I ever said something crazy, would you still love me? Or maybe just some bizarre Facebook prank from 2011? But no, my mom was dead serious. She said she'd been thinking about it for a while, that she and her new husband, 18 years younger than her, wanted to create something sacred to bond their love. And she said it in the same tone people use when asking you to house-sit their cat. "I just need a few eggs." Nothing major. I was stunned. I didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or just walk out. I only remember staring blankly at her and asking, "Mom, do you hear what you're saying right now?" She nodded and proceeded to launch into a morality speech, something I never expected from someone asking to borrow her daughter's reproductive organs. "You once said you wanted to help people who couldn't have kids, so why not help me now?" Yes, I did say that once. I said I might consider donating eggs to couples who were infertile, because they couldn't have children. Not to my own mother, who is 60 and married to a man barely older than me. Part 2. The Nightmare Plan. When I didn't respond right away, my mom began pitching her plan. She had done her research on egg donation forums. She had already spoken to a private clinic I didn't dare ask which. She even said, "If you're not ready, I could ask your sister, or even buy from a donor. But I want the baby to carry our family genes." And just like that, the ask became emotional blackmail. She started reminding me about all the years she raised me, that she gave up her career, her youth, her happiness, to have me. And now I couldn't return the favor with one tiny request. I felt sick. Not just because the idea was absurd, which it is, but because it was coming from the one person I thought would never flip the roles between parent and child like that. Part 3. The Guilt Games. When I started pulling away, she switched tactics from sweet to manipulative. She said I was selfish, that I was afraid the new baby would steal the spotlight from me, that I was pushing 30 and still unmarried. Why let your uterus go to waste? Excuse me. That's my decision, my body, not some science experiment for her love life. And her husband, that 42-year-old guy, silent as a ghost. I strongly suspect this whole idea came from him in the first place. Maybe I'm wrong, but my gut has never steered me wrong. Part 4. Am I a daughter or a breeding machine? I avoided the topic for weeks, but my mother didn't stop. She sent emails, texts, articles about healthy pregnancies at 60. Then came the tipping point, a handwritten letter, 3 pages long. It read, "You're the only one I trust. I'm not asking for much, just one last chance to be a mother. If you say no, I'll understand. But it will break my heart." I'm not sure she really would understand. But I knew my heart broke the moment I read the first line. Part 5. I snapped and cut her off. I did something I've never done to my mother in my life. I yelled at her. I called her selfish. I told her asking for my eggs was like treating me as some obedient egg-laying chicken. Then I blocked her. Phone, email, social media, everything. And the saddest part? I don't hate her. I just can't forgive her for asking something so deeply violating. The epilogue, she's pregnant but not with my eggs. Almost a year later, my aunt called me. Turns out my mom flew to another country, found a fertility clinic, and is now pregnant using eggs from a young donor. Her husband. Still there. They're happy. And me, I don't know what I feel. Relief that I'm not part of it. Sadness that my mother and I are fractured beyond repair, or just numb. Final thoughts. I'm not sharing this story to gain sympathy, or to seek validation, or to point fingers. I'm sharing it to say one thing. Boundaries are boundaries. Mother, daughter, family, it doesn't matter. No one has the right to force your body, your kindness, or your morality into submission. If someone makes you feel guilty for saying no, then chances are you were absolutely right to say it. If you're watching Reddit Echoes and this story made you pause and think, drop a comment below. What would you do if your mom asked you for something like this? Could you forgive her? Or would you walk away like I did? Story 2. My husband forbid me from attending my best friend's wedding. Because he wasn't invited. I'm a 29-year-old woman married for almost 3 years, and I have a husband who, let's just put it nicely, loves the sound of his own existence. He doesn't hit me. He doesn't scream at me. Nope. He's kind, but only when there's someone else watching. He supports me, as long as that support doesn't bruise his enormous, fragile ego. This story begins with an invitation to the wedding of my best friend in the whole world, Layla. Part 1. The invite and that look. Layla and I have been best friends since high school. We were the kind of friends who could call each other at 3 a.m., whether it was because of a breakup, or just because we were scared after watching a horror movie. Life had gotten busy and we didn't see each other as much lately, but the love was still there. So when I got her wedding invite, I nearly cried. It was handwritten. My name was embossed. And at the bottom there was a little note, P.S. It's a very small ceremony, just you. Please don't mention it to anyone who wasn't invited. I got it. She wanted a truly intimate wedding. Probably only 30 guests or less. I wasn't offended that my husband wasn't invited. In fact, I felt honored that I made the cut. I texted Layla and told her I'd happily come alone, and I swore I wouldn't say a word to my husband. Mistake number 1. I actually believed he wouldn't find out. Part 2. The bruised ego. 3 days later, I was sipping coffee when my husband walked in with a strange expression. "You got a wedding invite?" I nearly choked. Yeah. From Layla. He nodded, tone still calm. So, why didn't I see my name on it? Now I could have lied. Or I could have told the truth. And like a fool, I chose the truth. It's a really small wedding. She only invited me. Silence. A silence so thick it felt like it stretched through the entire length of our marriage. Then he said, "I find that really disrespectful." Part 3. The manipulation begins. Cue the emotional manipulation. I didn't do anything to her. Why would she exclude me? Are you okay with people treating your husband like he's invisible? Then came the guilt trip. Or maybe, you're embarrassed of me. Is that it? You don't want people seeing us together. I calmly explained it's a private wedding. Layla only invited her absolute closest friends. And he's not close to Layla. It's not an insult. But you know what happens when you speak logic to a fragile ego? It breaks. Spectacularly. Part 4. The first boycott. That night, he locked himself in his office. No talking, no dinner, no good night. The next morning, he left a note on the kitchen table. If you go to that wedding without me, don't expect me to be home when you get back. I was shocked, then angry, then exhausted. Because this wasn't the first time. He's pulled this before over smaller things, like me going out without telling him, or posting a selfie without tagging him. But this time he used the one thing he knew I feared most: abandonment. Part 5. Choosing to go alone. I spent 3 days thinking. I wrote and rewrote my message to Layla at least 10 times. But in the end, I sent just one line: I'll be there. And I'll look damn good. I told my husband, you have a right to be upset, but you do not have the right to control me with silence and threats. He looked at me like I just kicked his pet cat. Then he grabbed his phone and said, I'm calling my mother. She deserves to know how her daughter-in-law is treating this family. The final move call in the reinforcements. Let the emotional guilt Olympics begin. Part 6. The wedding and the wake-up moment. Layla's wedding was beautiful. Candles, acoustic music, tears, vows so raw and pure they nearly broke me. And standing there among old friends surrounded by love and gentleness, I realized something. I had been living with a man who needed everything to revolve around him. Every decision had to be approved, every joy had to be shared, and every friend I had felt like a threat. When Layla squeezed my hand and whispered, I'm proud of you for showing up, and I'm proud of you for choosing yourself, I knew I was ready to walk away from what was poisoning me. Final act. The cold goodbye. When I got home, he really wasn't there. But this time I didn't cry. I packed my bags, called an Uber to my parents' house. No drama, no texts, no tears. 3 days later, he called trying to play nice. I simply said, you taught me that marriage was about control. Thank you. I'm going back to school to learn what love actually is. If you're watching this and thinking, well, my husband's jealous too, but it's not that bad, stop and think again. Because control doesn't always come with bruises. Sometimes it comes in silence, in cold stares, in threats masked as sweet concern. Marriage isn't a prison. And love isn't ownership. If this story made you pause, like, and comment below. Have you ever been gently controlled? Tell me your story in the comments. Maybe we'll tell it next time on Reddit Echoes. Story 3. My ex-husband wants to name our daughter after his new girlfriend. You ever felt completely betrayed but still had to bite your tongue and act civil for the sake of your child? I know that feeling. Intimately. I'm a single mom with a 2-year-old daughter. And I have an ex-husband who once was the love of my life. But now he feels more like the main character in some cheap psychological drama where ethics are shredded by ego and fake responsible dad branding. We split up about 18 months ago when I was 6 months pregnant. Why? Simple. He cheated with a freshly graduated college student, and then had the audacity to call it true love. Part 1. The day he announced his soulmate. I remember that cursed day vividly. He walked into our living room, sat down with the sigh of a man who just solved the global economy and said, I can't keep hiding this. I'm in love with someone else, but I'll still take care of the baby. I promise. There I was. 6 months pregnant, back aching, feet swollen, and hormones raging, while he was off living his rom-com fantasy. What did I do? Scream throw things? No. I quietly got up, shut the bedroom door, and cried in the bathtub for 3 hours. That was the first time I felt truly insignificant. Part 2. The peaceful divorce. We divorced amicably, which in reality meant I agreed to nearly everything so he wouldn't make my postpartum life a legal nightmare. We agreed on joint custody 60-40 with me being the primary caregiver. He still visited, brought milk, took those adorable daddy-daughter pics for Facebook, while I silently swallowed exhaustion, betrayal, and the pain of being replaced. Every time I saw a photo of my daughter sleeping on the chest of the man who betrayed me, I had to physically stop myself from breaking down. Part 3. The New Girlfriend and Her Holy Mission. Enter Jenna. She's 24, blonde, and has a smile sweet as syrup but sharp as a razor. She stormed into our lives like a Category 5 hurricane named, "I'm not the homewrecker, I'm just who he really loves now." She started tagging along with my ex when he came to pick up our daughter. At first, I stayed silent. Why stir up drama? He was the cheater. But then Jenna started talking to my daughter like she was her biological mom, calling her baby girl, posting pictures with captions like "Tax stepmom duty," and even had the nerve to send me a link, 10 tips for being a great stepmom. But the cherry on top. She texted me this, "I think she deserves a name that reflects our family bond." He said, "You haven't officially registered it yet." Part 4. The Name and the Ridiculous Request. I had picked the name Aria when I was 15. It was the name I whispered to my belly at night. I had it printed on towels, pillows, even the painting above her crib. But due to some bureaucratic delay, the birth certificate wasn't finalized for a couple months post-delivery. So one day, during a casual parenting discussion, my ex dropped this little gem. Jenna and I were thinking, Jade might suit her better. It's modern feminine. Feels like a fresh start. It took me a few seconds to process it. They wanted me to rename my daughter to start with a J, to match Jenna. I stood up, said nothing, grabbed my purse, and walked out of that cafe. Later, I sent him one text. From now on, all communication goes through my lawyer. Good luck. Part 5. I chose to fight back. I contacted my attorney and filed for sole naming rights. I submitted evidence, screenshots, texts, photos of Jenna referring to herself as the mother of them, trying to shape my daughter's life around their vision. When I told my lawyer about the Jade thing, he paused, then said, "I've seen custody battles. I've seen people argue over religion, schooling, even haircuts. But this is the first time I've seen someone try to erase the mother's identity through a name." Part 6. The Final Confrontation. I agreed to one last private meeting with my ex. I wore a plain black dress, no makeup, no frills. But I had never felt more clear-headed in my life. I told him I will never let my daughter become a prop in your fantasy romance with your new girlfriend. If you push for that name again, I will file for full custody. And this time, I won't back down. He didn't say anything, just shrugged, like it was all some silly suggestion. I just thought Jade sounded prettier. Epilogue, I'm not someone you can erase. My daughter's name is Aria. It always has been, always will be. She lights up when I say it. Jenna, still posting photos, still hashtagging Dash or stepmom life, but now blocked because I sent her a cease and desist for using my child's images without consent. And my ex now goes through my lawyer for everything. Every time he suggests something, I reply with, "Please email. I'm busy. Being an actual mother." Closing words. If you're watching this thinking, why would any man do that? Congrats. You've never been through the shadowy aftermath of a broken marriage mixed with a wounded ego. But if you have lived it, then you know. Never let anyone rewrite your story, especially not when it's about your child and your unconditional love. Story 4. He ran and left me with the mugger. I never thought I'd be the main character in one of those stories you hear on Reddit or dramatic YouTube narration channels about the ultimate red flags in relationships. But here I am writing everything down, because if I don't, I might go insane from the pain, the shock, and the betrayal I just experienced from the person I trusted the most, my boyfriend. I'm 17. I know I'm still young. Maybe that's why I was so naive, so trusting, and so easy to hurt. My boyfriend Ethan is 19. We'd been dating for over a year. We met through a mutual friend, and ever since it felt like one of those sweet teen love stories. Ethan wasn't the lovey-dovey romantic type, but he had a quiet way of caring, subtle, gentle, but always at the right moment. I loved him. I trusted him, and I truly believed that if anything dangerous ever happened, he'd protect me. But I was wrong. Bitterly wrong. 1. That night, the turning point. It was a normal weekend evening. We had dinner and decided to take a walk. Our town isn't exactly a bustling city, but there are areas people recommend avoiding at night. Ethan, however, brushed it off. I've walked through here like a dozen times. It's totally fine, he said. I was hesitant, but I didn't want to argue, so I followed him. On our way back, a strange man approached us. He looked jittery and nervous, asking for directions. His voice was rushed. Ethan began pointing the way, and I pulled out my phone to open Google Maps. Then within seconds, this man pulled a small knife from his coat and growled, "Give me your money. Both of you." I froze. There was no time to think. And then, he ran. Ethan. The guy I loved. The guy I thought would hold my hand through any fear turned around and bolted. Not a word, not a glance, not a signal that he'd come back. He just left me. 2. Face to face, with pure fear. I stood there paralyzed. The mugger barked again. "Hurry up! Don't make me say it again." I was shaking, my eyes welling up, not from the knife, but from the gut-wrenching feeling that the person closest to me had just abandoned me. I reached into my wallet and handed him all the cash I had. Thankfully, he didn't touch me. He just snatched the money and ran. I stumbled into a nearby bar, hands trembling so hard I could barely hold my phone. I called my parents. They came and took me to the police. Not a single call from Ethan. Not a text. Not even a, "Are you okay?" 3. The call 2 hours later, and the pathetic excuse. Almost 2 hours later, my phone finally rang. Ethan. I was shaking with a mix of rage and relief. I picked up, "Where the hell are you?" He spoke softly. "I called the police." "Are you okay? I thought you ran after me." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I yelled into the phone, "You left me with a guy who had a knife. What were you thinking?" He was silent for a moment, then mumbled, "I panicked. I thought if I ran, you'd run too. But I knew Ethan too well, and that wasn't true. He didn't run because he thought I'd follow. He ran because he was scared. It was instinct. Self-preservation." I hung up. I couldn't take another word. 4. Shattered and disillusioned. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the moment in my head, my terrified face, Ethan's back as he ran, and my trembling hands handing money to a criminal. That was the moment I realized the man I loved wasn't who I thought he was. He wasn't someone who would face fear with me, even if it just meant standing still or holding my hand while we both panicked. I couldn't believe that when it really mattered, his first instinct was to abandon me. I was devastated. Not just because of the 2-hour silence, but because part of me had still been waiting for a message, a genuine apology, or just something that felt like care. Instead, I realized I loved someone who never truly loved me the right way. 5. He came back. But I was ready. The next day, Ethan came to my house. His eyes were red like he'd been crying as if he was the victim. He held a bouquet and said, "I know I messed up. I shouldn't have left you. I just didn't know what to do. I was scared." I replied coldly, "Scared? You think I wasn't scared? You think I wasn't paralyzed with fear while a man held a knife to my face alone?" He lowered his head and kept repeating, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I shook my head. "Sorry doesn't fix it, Ethan. You didn't just run from the mugger, you ran from me. I ended the relationship right there. No tears, no shouting. Just a 17-year-old girl learning a brutal lesson that loving someone doesn't mean they'll love you the way you deserve. What I learned from the mugging and the betrayal. I know some people reading this might say I'm too young, that everyone makes mistakes, that Ethan might change. Maybe. But to me, the moment he ran wasn't just about danger, it was about choice. And he chose himself. He chose to leave me behind. So I chose something too, a different path. One without a man who would ever make me question whether I was safe standing beside him. I might not know what true love is yet, but I know this love is not someone who leaves you when you need them the most. Have you ever experienced a moment where you saw your partner in a completely different light? Share your story in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell if you want to hear more true stories, dramatic, controversial, and painfully real, right here on Reddit Echoes. If this story made you pause or hit close to home, drop A in the comments. So, you've just heard a story that might seem small on the surface, but carried a deep stab to the very core of trust. Some people might try to defend the boyfriend, who wouldn't panic when staring down a knife. But the truth is, when you truly love someone, you don't leave them behind to save yourself. You don't run when they need you the most. You don't abandon them in fear just because your survival instinct kicks in. Love in its truest form isn't just about gifts, laughter, or warm hugs. Real love reveals itself in the worst of times. And in this case, that young woman didn't just survive a robbery. She survived a betrayal that most people would never forget. So what do you think of the boyfriend's actions? Was it just human instinct or a glaring sign of someone unworthy? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you've ever been in a moment where your trust was shattered by someone you loved, we want to hear your story too. As always, if you enjoy real stories, raw, emotional, dramatic, and sometimes controversial, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Reddit Echoes is always here to share the kind of stories that make you stop, think, and feel something real. Thanks for listening.